So good morning on my part. I'm Francesco Pavani. I'm also a member of CIMeC, and I'm here to present the doctoral program in Cognitive and Brain Sciences, which I coordinate. So the doctoral program in Cognitive and Brain Sciences is now in its 10th year, so we had quite a bit of experience in shaping it. And after 10 years, we'll have the opportunity for next call to move to a 4-year program. So unlike what we've done so far, we had a 3-year program, and we realized that often there was a need for extra time. We have arranged the program in a new way. And we're probably going to be one of the very few, if not the only, program in Italy in cognitive and brain sciences that has a 4-year schedule. Why did we decide to do this? Well, the main reason why we decided to do this is that if you decide to enroll in a program of such a kind, as you probably already fully understood by listening to the other presentation, you are facing a program that is very much interdisciplinary. And the consequence of this is that through the training phase of your PhD, you will have to learn other disciplines as well, not just the one on which you've trained so far, so not just the expertise that you have so far, but much more. Some of these expertise, most of these expertise will be required for your project, your own project, but it's also important to build knowledge around it. And the point is, once it's your project that you have to work on, you don't want just to have a surface knowledge. You want to learn things in deep. And the point is, that's why you need a longer time. That's why all our students typically needed longer time. And so we build this into the program to make it possible. The second reason why you need long time is that projects in cognitive and brain sciences can be challenging. They can be challenging for various reasons. One is that there's been tremendous technological advancement, and you really have to keep up with those and learn a lot about not just the method of acquiring good data, but also a good method of looking at your data. This is, of course, crucially important. So it's not just learning how to ask scientific questions in this domain, it's really literally also a matter of learning how to handle them and properly use the method to answer these type of questions. But also, it is often the case in cognitive neuroscience that you tackle special populations. So you study children, or you study patients who have a disorder or a typical development, or you work also with animal populations, and you'll have to learn how to handle all these different populations, and it will take time. It will simply take time. Good projects take time. And I guess another point why we thought it was important to move to a 4-year program is that although the PhD is considered the third level of education, so after the master there is the PhD as a further level of education, actually the PhD is actually an interface between two different states. You start your PhD as a student, you must finish your PhD as a young researcher. And that's difficult. That's difficult. Requires a transition also in your mind. And actually, very often, the more you approach the PhD program, any PhD program, not just ours, with a question in mind and with the maturity to think that you have a question and you really want to know the answer to that. It doesn't need to be a specific question, but you need to be aware that you have a question. The better it is. The better it is because you should start with the learning approach of a student, but you should finish and with a strive to contribute to the scientific domain in your own way. So you should finish as an independent young researcher. That's the aim. And in 3 years, well, that's difficult. 4 years, that's more doable. I won't mention all the topic of the program. You have already seen that CIMeC is a very interdisciplinary center. We cover topics that go from human cognition to animal cognition to language, computational language, so, I mean, you can read them, and these were simply taken from last year call. Now, the call will probably be out between mid-March and early April. We cannot say a date yet because this is the year in which all the PhD programs in Italy have to be sort of recertified, and therefore we are waiting for this process of certification to get to a certain step that we are allowed to go out with a call, but expect the call to be out between mid-March and early April. And if it goes out mid-March, we probably will be able to finish all the procedures by the end of June. If it's delayed, then by the end of, by the beginning of June, or if it's delayed by the beginning of July. So more or less this is the time schedule. And the program always starts the 1st of November. Although this year, that is the 10th year of CIMeC, there will be a celebration the week before the beginning of the PhD program. So for those students who will finally be selected and be enrolled, we are thinking of a schema to anticipate by 1 month the scholarship, so that you can also participate to the 10th year celebration, which will be a good way to start the year. How is the program structured? It's structured over 4 years, and basically there are three types of activities. The first type of activity is research credits. So you're there to run your project, to learn to run your project. As I said, you're there to ask a question that is relevant for you. And so we decided that we wanted to leave as much as possible the freedom to do this. Now, acquiring research credits means basically work on your project with your advisor and your lab, but also present in internal contest like the Doctoral Student Day, develop your research activity, write research report, do critical literature review, presenting what we call the brown bag meeting, which are internal meetings that occur every Friday at CIMeC, and then again write your papers, and in the end write your thesis. So this is pretty much all the things that define the type of credits that you will acquire during this period in research. We tried and we managed to limit as much as possible the compulsory credit in the course, because students come with very different background. And we realized that sometimes it was useless to give a MATLAB course to a student that came from engineering and perfectly knew what it was about. For other students, it was trivial to have a psychology course because they've studied it through all their previous career. So we try to have focus on a core of compulsory courses and make all the rest elective, so that you can pick what is needed for your career, for your project, for your development. So in the end, the compulsory credits have to mainly do with three things. The first one is a couple of lectures that occur in the first year on how to manage the whole PhD project and program. The second thing is, for us, extremely important: ethics and good practice in research. This is a central part in your career as a scientist, and you have to be fully aware of all the implications of what you do, as much as possible, at least. So we want to raise awareness as much as possible towards the ethical implication of what you do, and stress the importance of good practice in research. Okay? You do not want you want to run your studies because you want to know the answer of things. So there is no space, not just in the scientific community, but towards yourself. There is no space for shortcuts. You're not making shortcuts for yourself. You want to know the real answer to things. The other important aspect is CIMeC is a community. We've already stressed this, and my colleagues have already stressed this several times. is a broad community, an international community, and we think it's very important that the students are part of this community, are integral part of this community. So participating in the life of the institution is something that we consider extremely important, and this goes into the credits and lasts for the 4 years. Electives? Well, if you have not learned yet how to communicate your research, we'll have a course on that. If you do not know how to plan and run your studies, practically I mean, we'll have a course on that. If you need to achieve expertise on a specific technique, MEG, fMRI, TMS, whatever, we'll have a course on that. If you want to know how to finance your research, which of course is critical because research is costly and expensive, we'll give you a course on that. But the point is, if you already know these things, then you can pick something else. And by the end of year 2, basically all this part should be finished, and you should be free to participate in the life of the institution while doing research. Basically, that's the point from year 3 onward. CIMeC is a lively place, and we have many, many colleagues that come to the center every week, almost every week. We have a series of colloquium that bring here top scientists from around the world, so it's a great opportunity to learn also from the various perspectives that they have. But as I said, research seminars with your lab, with your advisor, lab meetings, journal club, workshops, PhD day, our Friday CIMeC internal meeting, all this is there for you to exchange ideas and learn. So this is the context in which we want you to be. Now, a very fundamental partnership in the PhD program is with IIT. So IIT was already mentioned in the presentation of our director, Carlo Minussi, but the Center for Neuroscience and Cognitive Systems is a core part of our PhD program. So part of the fellowships are actually provided by IIT, but it's not just that. It's the intellectual and knowledge and scientific contribution that they bring to the program, which I think is particularly rich and particularly important. Now, one way to look at how our program did, and we looked at this because it was the 10th year anniversary this year, is to look at what happened in the past. Now, students have been quite productive. These are the very first cycles, followed then for the following 5 years, so that we can have a bit of history. There was an average number of students per cycle around 10, 11, and all were quite productive. The interesting thing is not as much what they produced during the program, but I think is what happened afterwards. So they kept continuing with their publication after leaving the program. And this is compatible with the fact that actually most of our students, really the vast majority of our students, continued with postdocs or positions in universities, international and national, in the private sector and in public sectors. So this is a very quick, a very brief overview. I just thank you now for your attention. Feel free to get in touch with me during the break, but also with Lea Mercanti, who's the administrator of the PhD program, and Rachel, who's there. Rachel Burushan, who's a student in our program. So you can ask various questions, and also, what? Okay. Anyway, Rachel and Lea over there, and I'm here, and you can also write me, francesco.pavani.pavani@unitn.it, but you can find me also in the homepage. Thank you very much.